The future of Greenland is a decision for Greenland and for the Kingdom of Denmark. We are NATO partners with Denmark, and so our full partnership stands. Our obligations on Article 5, Article 2 of NATO stand, and we stand full square behind those.
That, of course, is Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, with outlining Canada's position. Seems pretty clear there about where we stand with NATO, because the story today is Canada is considering sending a small number of military personnel to Greenland, a decision, though, that will have to be approved, finally approved by the Prime Minister himself. That hasn't happened yet, from my understanding. We say good afternoon to David Heurtel. Our feature is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries, reminding you plenty of time to get yourself a Can-Air climate control system, heat pump, furnace, either way. Stay warm right through the rest of winter. 514-342-3400 to go online for more information, guaranteedindustries.com. David, I took a lot of very passionate calls from listeners over a couple of points this afternoon, some saying we should absolutely send troops to Greenland and do our part as NATO members, and others saying no. You know what? If we do that, we're going to end up, as we say, poking the bear, and that will hurt Canada in the long run. What do you think's going on here?
Well, the way I understand it, the current situation regarding Canada sending troops to Greenland is about exercises that were already scheduled. This is not we're not in a context of a military buildup and a confrontation with the U.S. We're not at that stage, not even close to it. We're talking about a minor participation in exercises that were already scheduled. Now, the fact that
let me stop you for a second. Yeah. But symbolically, though,
yes,
right?
No, this is about. I think it's important to de-escalate and say what this is.
Okay,
this is not Canada, with Denmark and other European partners building up for a showdown.
Fair enough.
Against the U.S.
Okay.
That's not the situation. I think we have to be careful about how we present this. Now, yes, the symbolism is important, and I totally agree with the Prime Minister on this. I think if we don't respect our word, what have we been talking about for the last 3 years with regards to Ukraine? What is our word worth in terms of the NATO treaty? The fact is that poking the bear, you're talking about a bear that is already poked. This is not a sleeping bear, to take your analogy, Aaron. The bear is widely awake, and he is completely unpredictable, and he already has attacked Canada on the economic side of things, with no sign of slowing down. Forcing Canada and forcing the Prime Minister and our government to diversify our economy. But it's also about principle. It's about reason. It's about Canada's place in the world. Mark Carney has been very adamant throughout his tenure so far. He's traveled to Europe many times, signed many agreements with Europe. With regards to Ukraine and with, being steadfast with NATO allies. And so this situation, we have to draw the line here because, as NBC reported yesterday, the president is looking at Canada next. Let's be clear here. There's a very detailed NBC report, and I don't know if you saw it yesterday, that details the fact from senior White House officials that the president isn't going to stop at Greenland. The next step is doing the same thing with Canada with regards to the Arctic.
Right.
So where do we stop? This is the same type. We're talking about it's almost the same language that you're taking we are hearing. Not you, Aaron, of course. What we're hearing about these voices, this sounds a lot like a lot of European politicians and some American politicians, some Canadian politicians were talking about in the early 30s about a certain leader in Germany. It's called appeasement. You don't appease a bully. If you give, the bully's going to take some more, right, and some more and some more.
So I want to move off this, but I've had a couple of callers. One made a very vehement point about, what? He said, Europe doesn't help us. Europe doesn't need us. We don't need Europe. Europe's never done anything to us. I'm not sure I understand what that means. What do you take that to mean?
I don't know what that means. We have, yes. I mean, in economically speaking, we have relied over the past decades way too much. Now we know on the U.S.
Right.
as a trading partner. Over 70% of our exports go to the U.S. We are diversifying. That's what Mark Carney's trip is about. This is what he signed with. That's the first step with China was done. Opening up with India, working with much closer to Europe. Looking at, for example, the latest example. We've talked about this before. The fighter jets.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the Swedish royal family came here, and there are serious talks that for the first time in, I think, ever, we may seriously consider buying our next fighter jets from a European country. And so that's called diversifying trade and not depending on the U.S. So in terms of they've never done anything for us, and what is this? I mean, we're allies. And we have historic and cultural and economic ties that are very strong with Europe, but also we're developing with the rest of the world. That's what Canada needs to do. We're an exporting nation. We are not self-sufficient. We are an energy power for sure. We have very strong industries in several fields. But for Canada's future to be strong, it has to export. And that's always been the case. We're an exporter nation. A nation of 40 million people cannot be self-sufficient in this type of economy. So we have to trade. We have to develop trade. And if our main partner isn't playing ball anymore, we have to find new partners. And guess what? There are a lot of people willing to play ball with Canada. And I think that's what Mark Carney is doing and developing it very well so far.
All right, let me move on and talk about what's happening here provincially. We find out today, Sonia Lebel, thank you, but no thank you. Geneviève Guilbeault, thank you, but no thank you. Both of whom were probably top of the list as potential successors to François Legault. Mm-hmm. And not only don't they want the job, David, they're done with politics.
Well, yeah. Well, for Geneviève Guilbeault, let's be clear. Up until the Saclay scandal, she was the number one pretender to the throne. But her testimony was a catastrophe, was a disaster. And even though she says she's been thinking about it a long time and, took out in a very classy way, took out the fact, that I want to spend time with my kids, which is totally okay, and I'm not going to criticize that. But the fact is that she was gearing up to succeed François Legault. But she saw the writing on the wall, and so there was no way for her to mount a viable campaign, and that's been clear since August, September. For Sonia Lebel, I think it became very clear also that the two, and for any, this type of situation, it's a caucus race. And so, just think about, for example, when Lucien Bouchard left, it was a caucus race between Bernard Landry and Pauline Marois. Very quickly, it became between two people. Same thing with Brian Mulroney. When he left, it became very clear that it was between Jean Charest and Kim Campbell. And so the idea here is that there was clearly not a lot of support for Sonia Lebel, even though she was very respected. And also, it's one thing to look at this when you're in your third year in active politics, like Christine Fréchette is, or in your fourth year, I should say. But when you're in your 10th year, Sonia Lebel joined François Legault as a political advisor when in opposition back in 2015, 2016. So you're looking at, this is 10 years now. And so that takes a lot of you. She's had many tough portfolios that she handled well, but at the same time, I think it's different through the looking glass. But the idea here is right now what you're seeing within the caucus is there are two main currents. There's the economic moderate current and renewal and fresh face, which is embodied right now by Christine Fréchette, and there is the identity nationalist card. The hardcore right-wing part of that party, which is embodied by Simon Jolin Barrette. And that's where the different key support is going. So for Geneviève Guilbeault, it was dead on arrival following her testimony at Saclay. Sonia Lebel, I think it's a combination of things. One, I don't think there was just no traction. And also, I think after 10 years in politics, it's a good time to maybe say, okay, do I have the energy to go at it really full throttle? And I think the answer was no.
You know, it's getting more interesting by the day. I mean, we look at this and people are like, forget about the horse race as to who's going to be the person to replace Francois Legault. I said earlier on, it's almost like nobody wants this job. But you're right. I mean, Simon Jolin Barrette. You kind of wonder, though, David, I'm just really curious quickly, if he were the guy to lead the party, maybe that's what we should hope for, because that hard nationalist might steal some votes from the PQ.
Well, that hard nationalist, yes, you're correct. If the party decides to go that road, take that road, that would definitely keep that nationalist vote, that former PQ vote, with the CAQ, and that could definitely help the Liberals. But at the end of the day, also, and these are very early days, but I got to say, Aaron, Charles Milliard is not taking advantage of this at all. Last week, at several conversations with the media, he was asked, clearly what were his positions on different issues, identity issues, economic issues, and he was very vague in general, which is surprising for a guy who mounted, for almost a year, a leadership campaign last year, and knew from the get-go that this leadership race isn't really won. He has it. He is the de facto leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec. So he has to take the room. He has to take the space. But yes, if the nationalists, the hardcore identity politics nationalists of the CAQ, the Bill 96 anti-immigration, Bill 21 people, like Simon Jolin Barrette, Jean-François Roberge, take over the party, well then, yes, that's going to be taking away some votes from the PQ. And while those two parties squabble over identity politics, Charles Milliard can focus on what is issue 1, 2, and 3 for Quebecers. It's affordability.
Well, let's hope, he starts ramping up that game, because you're right, David, I agree. It's time to start doing it. Now's the time, right?
Yeah,
strike while the iron is hot, as they say. So,
exactly.
All right.
He has to define himself and define the others.
David Heurtel, David, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Bryan Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
Or the free iHeartRadio app.